Thank you, Hemachandran, firstly. I learnt a lot. Actually, I was one guy who stood against my parents to start up a company. Everyone wanted me to continue the work at the company where I got into. I said, when they asked for experience to be an entrepreneur, I said, experience is a comb that life gives you after you become bald. So that was when a lot of things came in place for me. I met Kiruba Shankar. I worked with him on quite a few events, and I learnt a lot from him. The reason why I'm right now recognized as a social media guy today is because I took a lot of insights from Kiruba Shankar. And as most of you know, I would have referred most of my inspirations to two people. One is Harsha Vogle and the other is Kiruba Shankar. He is the dawn of social media in Chennai. Of course, there are only two people who do this. Saurav Jain, who was jammed the last meetup. And today, let's have Kiruba Shankar. We have a lot more to discuss about him, but I should leave questions to Sampath.
Welcome. Thanks. So, Kiruba, welcome to Jam with Sam. Really nice having you here on the show.
Thank you, Sampath.
So, I heard that you're a legend in online media in Chennai and in India. People call you the Rajnikant of social media.
Yeah, what an insult to Rajinikanth, really.
Whistle podo.
Yeah.
That he always does that.
So, far from it. But I'll tell you what, one of the beautiful things about social media that I've found is this ability to engage in a conversation. And one of the reasons, this is a format, right? You ask a question, I answer back, and we engage. But even better would it be if we can all engage in a conversation with the audience, with people who are listening in, and that's when the interest factor really goes up, right? So I think that's the beauty of social media, which is like it involves people, and there's dialogue, there's conversation.
You seem to be leading on that particular thing. I'm seeing the engagement. See, today engagement is very, very important.
Yeah.
For example, as I know people who are there, they will keep on posting on their own profile, but they will never take the effort of going to somebody else's profile and liking that profile, engaging with that person over there. So that's one thing which I found is worked so much for me, and I was able to interact with more and more people over there. So that is a very, very big conversation, and that engagement is very important in that.
That's right.
So can you share some highlights of your journey, maybe 3 or 4 highlights, how you got over here in this particular place into social media?
Sure. A good place to start is in college. So I studied, I did my instrumentation technology. Now I don't even know how to spell it. So it's a classic case of you get into engineering, you finish and then figure out what should I do. And then while in the college, I found that I was very fascinated with the writing. Okay. So when you have a subject that you're bored with, you find other avenues to streamline your interest. So I started to write for my college magazine and eventually became its editor. And so while in the college itself, I started to write for a few magazines, smaller magazines. And so what that did beautifully was that as I came out, I realized that there were two things. One, there was technology, and then another one was writing. And so I started getting into the digital medium, and thankfully that was the time it was opening up. So almost right from that till now, which is about close to 18 years, I've always been in the digital medium, and that was a nice precursor.
Okay.
The birth of the beginning of internet in 1995 in India, and the time when I graduated out.
Okay.
So I eventually joined a very innocuously small web design company, and then moved on to Sifi, which was India's first internet service provider, and then a few other companies, and eventually into Sulekha.com, which is a fairly well-known online medium, classifieds and yellow pages site. And that's when the entrepreneurial bug bit me, and then it started off turning my passion into a profession, which is social media, and we consult for corporate companies.
So what are the things you do? I mean, what are the things which are you into SME sector? Which are the verticals you address, and which are the sectors which you work?
The vertical that I really like the best is the ones which have money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Exactly.
So, so in other words, it's I'm a vertical agnostic. It could be, and that's the beauty of being social, right? So every single company, whether it's in the medical field, or legal, FMCG, automotive, IT, and there's an absolute dire need for corporate companies to shed its corporate mask and to come down and really start getting into a conversation with their potential buyers. I think that's very important. So it really applies across.
I just was reading an article of Brian Solis today. So he was talking about this technology disconnect. He's saying a lot of the old technology companies, they just want to build up this fresh technology on top of their old technology and try to integrate it. And that's where the problem is happening. They have to just literally throw away all that technology and build on the new technology which is coming over there.
True.
That's one of the learnings which I had today. So do you believe that your own personal brand is more important than a page in digital media? Because I have gone through a lot of websites in this lot of interviews. Yours is one of the most exhaustive websites I've seen. I mean, like I said, there's something which I would like to do, the amount of writing, and it's not just for the sake of creating those categories. Each category is populated over there. With and each of the article is written with passion. Some people just want to write for the sake of SEO, but each article is written with passion. I mean, how long will it take you to do this? And what are the tricks you can think to tell others to do this?
Well, it's actually an easy problem to solve, right? So the best way that I've seen to improve oneself is to really go and start admiring people who have been doing awesome work, right? Okay. So I've always looked up to people who really could express themselves beautifully, both in the physical world as well as in the online world. And that starts from as simple as a hygiene factor as a website. And then I look at them, man, look at that. Look at the way how he's portrayed himself, his photograph, the way how he's introduced himself, the way how he has described the various interests that he has. And that's beautiful because in a way, the website takes your persona, comes out, shakes your hand and introduces itself. So it's very important to have a nice website. And when you admire, you try and see that, hey, can I beat that? Can I beat that? Can I improve one bar a little higher? So that's how it began. However, your question was that is personal branding important? I used to believe that it was really, really important. But now I'm of the belief that an awesome leader, a great CEO must disappear into the wallpaper. And this, a great leader must disappear into the wallpaper, was actually said by a good friend of mine. He now runs a multi-million-dollar business, and you never see his name anywhere. You don't see any bit of focus about on his website, company's website, because what he believes is two things. One, completely believe in process, and second, completely believe in what the clients want. Okay, do your clients want you to be an awesome figure and a great? The answer is probably not. But what they want is great service. So I used to be a big believer in the fact that it's very important to build a personal brand. While in some cases, yes, it is important, but I think what's more important is in what value are you giving to other people and to other clients.
So a lot of people talk about oversharing. Like on Twitter, you can overshare. People have gone on to Instagram. Every day I get 4 requests on Instagram, and I go and see the person has just created an account. He's not even put up one photograph over there.
Yeah.
So it's just there's a new thing come in, let me do that over there.
Yeah.
So just following that herd mentality without actually working on that platform.
Right.
Like when you talk to a person about Foursquare, like, do you smoke? I said no, I don't smoke. It's a brand. And now Foursquare has gone into Swarm over there. So each of these platforms which are there, there's a different way to share on that. But do you think oversharing is happening nowadays, with especially the selfies and all that stuff coming? Do you think oversharing is happening?
I definitely think so. It's a problem. Like, for example, we have information, and the problem is that over information, right? And the same thing even with our own social media usage as well. And a good way, a fantastic yardstick that I have found that sieves through the many thoughts that you have that you're dying to share with others, but to make sure that only the best comes through. And a good sieve is to ask, is it interesting? Has it been a great experience for you to share? Is it useful for others? Just these 3 simple questions, if you pass through, you will and that's a
Correct,
great
correct,
filter for you to
correct,
put
correct.
out only the best ones.
Correct.
And there ends the problem of oversharing, because even if you're overdoing it in terms of quantity, but in terms of interesting, the factor is very high, then you're okay.
Like I know a couple of food bloggers. All they do is they go to a restaurant, they take the photograph of the photo, write something about that, but nothing about their personal life. Like we want to know what are you doing, what you're doing. Okay, yeah, you're doing food blogging. So automatically, you're going to turn off his updates because this guy is only into commercial activity.
No, wrong. Let me tell you.
Okay.
What they're doing is really good. They are food bloggers. They've established their brand as food bloggers, and they're doing their job, and they're following with passion. It so happens that you or me may not be into food, and we don't want an overdose of food coming way. But the people who like that will eventually end up following. So I think that will be the beauty of social media is that it has beautiful checks and balances. You follow who you want, you unfollow who you don't.
Correct.
It kind of
Absolutely. Like I have some people, like I am a bit of a non-vegetarian. So all my vegetarian foods, don't you ever eat anything besides chicken and all that stuff over there? So then especially on Monday, on Monday my wife, she does the Shivji ka fast over there. So I said, this is bhendi, this is potatoes. Does it look very exciting to you? I'm going to go back to sharing what I'm doing over there. So that's you establish, and sometimes people come back to you, aaj khana nahi khaya, you're not had food today, you're not posted anything over there. Actually you get people getting back to you. That's when you know the connection you're made with people over there. Yeah.
So, but that's one good thing that we have in common, Sampath. So I eat anything that walks, flies, and swims.
Oh, that's
so
fantastic.
Yes.
Good. I thought I was alone over here, So, Kiruba, your bio says you're an entrepreneur, author, speaker, podcaster, farmer. I understand all that, but can you elaborate on the second, that podcaster and farmer? I'm a bit clueless on that.
So, this is exactly what you're doing, right? What you're doing is you're getting people from different fields in different cities and engaging in a conversation, right? And you're making it interesting because you're delving into the life of the guest, and you're trying to seek out some of the interesting experiences and putting it in a beautiful manner in form of videos and in form of text for the readers.
Okay.
In a way, that's what I do as well. So I love meeting people who've been there, done that, who really succeeded in life, and figuring out what's the secret behind their success. What is it that motivates them? Why this passion? And why are they kicking ass while the rest of us aren't doing, and what is it that we can benefit from them? And that's precisely what I do as well. So I run a very egoistically named site called Kiruba.tv, and where I have conversations with people and then bring out their life journey.
So this is a one-to-one conversation you have?
Yes. Not often do I get to meet them face to face. I do it over Skype. Over telephone. It could be in just various formats.
And the second, farmer.
So I come from an agricultural family. So my entire generation of family members have been pursuing, and I noticed something very remarkable in my father's generation. That is, the day my grandfather, my mom's dad, passed away, and that was 31 years ago, was the last day then our family ever did any farming, and that was the end of it. So we had a few lands, and there was the last day that it was even plowed. And I noticed something remarkable that's happening in villages. If somebody finishes school or college and he continues to stay in the village, then you're a failure. You have to move out of the village, go on to a town or a city and take up an IT job or a government job, then you're considered successful. And I think that's an extremely sorry and saddening trend that's happening. And the second one is that I think farming is such a noble profession. They say teaching is a noble profession, but I think farming is even more nobler. And I felt that it's very important not to lose track of our roots. So for both these reasons, I decided to get back. So what I do is I now divide my life. During the week, I do digital consulting, and during the weekends, I go back to my farm and actually work on my farm.
Okay.
So that's
I saw a couple of photographs. There are some other people also. You take some friends also and go along with you over there.
Yeah, because cheap labor.
Okay, I was going to come with you on that over there.
Please do.
Actually, it's like that. There's this clay workshop which happens, and people get full. I said, yeah, how can you plate clay? He says, you just come and you play with that clay. You feel you're going back to your roots over there. When you're connecting and molding that clay over there. Same thing I think is farming over there.
No, it's absolutely. So let me tell you an instance. So I have 2 daughters, and so because of love and all that, my mom or my wife, they feed a little bit more rice than what kids eat, right? It's just very normal Indian tendency. And most of the time they would actually waste the rice because they can't eat everything. In the last year and a half, they would come along with me and experience the entire cycle of growing rice. You know, you plow the land, then you put the seedlings, you make them grow, then you transplant them plant by plant, and it's a back-breaking job. Then you safeguard them from other animals, then you deweed them, then you fertilize them, then you deweed them again, then you harvest them, you thrash them, you take them to the mill, and it's such a difficult process, the entire thing. And my kids, they're all 12 and 8, and they see through, and they realize that does it take all this effort for us to get food on our plate? And ever since they saw that, the kind of effort and the difficulty and the huge process, they stopped wasting. They would say that is enough. This is how much I can eat, and whatever they puts up on their plate, they really finish it up clean. Right? And I mean, that's just one example of what it does. And I think it's important for all of us to really appreciate where food's coming from.
Yeah, that's we don't realize that, and how hard it is to get that food onto the plate over there. How much it's costing us also.
Yeah.
As parents, we know that, but as the kids, they're not realizing it's available.
Yeah.
Your passion for comics is huge. I saw something about Limca Book of Records. You're trying to get some records. So can you share something on that?
Sure. So, when we are young, that's when our creativity is at its peak, right? And the best way you can escape from the real world is to enter into the world of comics, and your Tintins and your Phantoms and your Asterix and Obelix is just a beautiful. And the beauty is that when you were a child and when you picked up these comics, you read them not because your parents forced them to read them. You read them not because your teacher gave them. You read them not because there's going to be an exam at the end of it. You read them because you enjoyed them. And you sank into the entire story, and you became one with the characters, and you transported into a different world. And it's sad that as we grow up, we lose some of that, the creativity and the childishness and the. So one of the things that I wanted to do was not to lose that, and so I wanted to continue. I still buy a lot of comics. I read a lot of comics, also because I want my kids also to rub off on them as well. So one of the things I wanted to do was to really build a nice collection, because now anything that's printed is going on with all that online and your Kindles coming in and everything coming up digitally on your smartphones. So the physical comic books have now become a rarity, and in a way they've really grown in value as well. So I just put myself as a challenge that, hey, what if we really collect as many comic books as possible, and hopefully get the Limca Book of Records for being the largest collector of comics. Long way to go though.
How do you maintain? I mean, I'm just sharing because I also in 10th standard I decided to become an entrepreneur. So I bought a lot of comics. My father was in the Gulf, so he used to give me pocket money at that time in 81, about 1,000 rupees per month I used to get, which was a big sum of money, and I used to treat all my friends. So I used to go and buy comics. I ended up buying comics, books, and I started a library. So, and I used to charge people for that. So people used to take the books and never return it back. So that was my first failure as an entrepreneur over there. But how do you maintain these comics?
Yeah, very difficult. Don't even start this conversation with my wife, please. Yeah, so it's a very difficult thing,
very difficult.
and the bigger it takes, it also takes a lot of real estate space in your home as well. But we have got to live with it.
But at least in Chennai, I don't think you'll have a problem. In Mumbai, we have the sea, so a lot of salt water affects that, and it starts deteriorating over here.
Yeah.
But I think if you buy a dehumidifier or something, you should be able to manage that over there. Okay, your family is very close to your heart.
Yeah.
So you're one of the first person I've seen which has got a page dedicated to your family and your kids about their description and all on your website over there. So tell me something. How do you find time with your schedule? So is it the farming which you do? Do you find time, or is it during the day also? You find
Yeah,
time?
I think the trick to strike a great balance with family is to really involve them in most of the activities that you're doing. That way you feel less guilty. So I'm off during the weekends off to do farming. Then most times I take my family along, my wife, my kids, my parents. They really get involved into the entire activity as well. So that way it's been very helpful. And the second thing is and very key, extremely important, is to marry an understanding wife. Right? So never, for all bachelors, this is very, very key.
Very key advice. I know.
Which also explains on the serious side, I think it's very important to go against our Indian tradition of giving ads in Hindu matrimonial or Bharat matrimony and get married. I think it's very important to really understand who your partner is, find out if the vibes are good and if the chemistry is great, if your passions match, and then get married. I'm talking as a father of 2 daughters, and me and my wife have had this conversation. You know, as dads of daughters, you protect them from all guys,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah,
And I think it's important to give them their space for them to really go and explore and find who they want to partner in life on their own. Of course, you got to be supportive.
Yeah.
Of course, I will break the face of the guy who messes, but that said, it's very important to give
You keep them away from that golden quadrilateral.
Yes.
Om Chandran is not listening over there. No, it's changed. I've seen the change happening. It's very good. You know, most of the time arranged marriages used to work, but now you have to really know that person for a year or 2, and it is happening. That change has happened. Mine, of course, was a love marriage. I met my wife in college, and we gelled very well and all, and we got married. And today, you realize that understanding is very, very important.
Very
And
important.
especially as an entrepreneur, when you're starting and struggling and failing also at the same time. So that's when your wife and your family, your support circle is very important. Absolutely. Okay, so we go to a quick one, Murugan questions. Your favorite food?
Farm fresh harvested millets, which are far more nutritious than rice. That's my favorite food.
I thought you'll say, today I put up that post of that poached rabbit over there. So I thought you'll put something like that over there. This is like something out of blue. Okay. Your favorite hero?
Rajesh Sethi. He's not an actor.
Okay.
He doesn't act, but he's an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. He's a speaker. He's an investor. But overall, amongst the most amazing human being that I've met, only because of something that I believes in networking, but believes more in giving than in taking, and somebody who really goes out to help. And if I can live, if I can be half as good as him, I'd be super happy.
Fantastic. Who's your idol?
So I would imagine somebody. I can't pick up a name, but I would imagine somebody who really goes out and follows his passion. And if you force me to name a name, I would say the name of Derek Sivers, someone who is a musician, a struggling musician, and this guy cut out an album, never could sell it to any of the music labels. So he builds his own website, goes to a music store, buys a book on how to build a website in 7 days, builds a site, an e-commerce site, sells his music. He finds his friends struggling, so he starts to sell his friends' music. Quickly fast forward 4 years later, sells his company to Amazon.com for $22 million US, and then donates all his money to a music charity.
Wow.
And then he lives a life of detachment. He doesn't own a house. He doesn't own a car. He and his wife, they travel around the world, live in different cities, really enjoy and savor the experiences. I mean, what are the chances? I mean, somebody like him, I would love to do that. Of course, I can't be. But if we can really follow someone like that, that'd be awesome. He's my idol.
In your next life, you'd like to be reborn. You can't say yourself. Who would you like to be reborn as?
As a dog.
Okay, why?
Right. So number one, what amazing loyalty.
Yes.
Right? And what amazing friendship. Doesn't care about what they get or not, but really how much they get. And they get to screw whoever they want. That's amazing. Good question.
We'll censor that thing off over there. So, where do you see? social media in the next maybe about 4 to 5 years? You think it's going to disappear, or it's going to get much more evolved? Is it going to be Facebook or something else, some other platform is going to come out? What's your view and what's your vision in the next 5
Sure,
years?
platforms will definitely come and go, right? 7 years back, 8 years back, if you told me that Orkut will one day close down, I would say, what were you smoking? Facebook will have its own shelf life, I'm sure. But what really matters is that three things, right? This is what, and this will constitute the basis for any social medium. So number one is storytelling. And this has been there for time immemorial, as people gathered around a fire and this old man would tell a story and we'd all people sit with rapt attention. That storytelling will never go away. And second one, the ability to make friends and the need for friends, true friends, and the ability to connect with people who are no longer face to face with you. That will definitely go on. The third one is professionalism, which is the ability to make money. So any social network that helps you make a career or helps you build business will definitely last. And the last one is the ability to attract the opposite sex. So that if these four things out there, and these will be critical, this will be the basis, and any medium that's able to offer one or in fact all four of them, I think will succeed. It could be Facebook this time, it could be WhatsApp next year, it could be completely different 10 years from now.
So that's your vision for the future.
I would definitely think so. Yeah.
Fantastic. A word to the young entrepreneurs out there. So I think now we both are on the same side, so the young entrepreneurs out there.
Thank you, Sampath. What would be my advice? I think don't run behind what others are doing, and it's so very easy to fall into the trap of herdism, and just find out what you really want to do and just follow that, only because your heart flutters a little extra whenever you think of that.
Fantastic. I mean, that's really right. It's really very deep. Fantastic. Great having you here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you.